another one.
Managing regression test cases. How do you store and update them? Says, I'm seeking insight on best practices for managing regression test cases, particularly when new user stories come along that impact existing regression scenarios. Test case management tools. What tools are you utilizing for storing and managing regression test cases? How do these tools help with updating test cases when a new user story is introduced? For example, impact analysis. Updating process. How do you ensure your regression test suite remains in sync with the evolving feature set? I'd love to streamline the process. It's super manual and time consuming. I appreciate any insight or experiences you can share. Thanks a bunch. All right. So let's put our 5 minutes up because we have got to go in a little bit. So, to answer your question, so in the past, I've used the test case management system. As I mentioned before, we use Inflectra in order to manage all of our test cases, our test runs, and then reporting defects and all that good stuff, right? But currently, our test cases, our features are because we use Behave in Python, which is like the BDD tool set for it, framework for it. Like when we need to make changes, we will so we write our test plans, right? What we're going to, the things that we need to test, and things we need to focus on. But the details of how the test is being executed is inside of our testing suite, our automation test, right? So we will go in there and we'll make the necessary changes to the feature files, or add additional features if we need to, and then we'll do the changes inside of our inside the functions that power our test. Let's see. So that's how we handle them. Best practice for managing regression tests. As the tests change based on the new features that you're implementing, then that's when you update your test, your regression test, right? Pretty simple. If a What I normally do is I run the regression test, and if something fails, find out what fails, and see, is it failing because of a change? Like, is it a valid failure because of a change that we made, or or is it failing because something is not working? That's a determinant. That's the determination that we need to make on why is it failing, and do we need to update our test, or do we need to file a bug or a defect to get that resolved, right? So that is that's how we decide on like what to update, right? So we said when new user stories come along that impact existing regression tests, you just need to update them. That's simple as that. And you got to figure out like what's the cause of failure, right? I love to see failures in that scenario because we need to see, okay, is it a valid failure, or is it an update that we need to make, or is it a bug that's happening, right? What tools are you using for storing and managing regression tests? So currently it's all in the code base using Behave, using feature files written in the Gherkins format. And here's a cool thing I just thought about, right? Using the Gherkins format, right? You should be able to easily take those feature files, and if you needed to go to a different language, take the feature files, put them in a new language, and you would be able to write the functions for that, right? Or you could easily take those feature files and give them to anybody. You can give them to another QA to have understanding of the system. You can give them to a business analyst as documentation. You can give them to the technical writer as documentation. You can share it with stakeholders to know how the application is working, how it's being tested, all that, right? So many things you can do with the feature files. So I would say the tools that you're using, like in this case, we're using our automation framework via Behave for Python, but you could be using Cucumber in Java. whatever the one there is for C sharp, whatever the case may be, right? How do you ensure your regression test suite remains in sync with the evolving feature set? You just have to, like, new features that should be tested on a regular basis. You just have to add those over again, right? It's not that hard to do. Let's see here. So yeah, you need to add the new features. Simple as that. To, like, it's just part of QA. You decide, like, okay, this should be part of our regression suite. This should be running on a daily basis. This should be running on a weekly basis. This should be running hourly. Who knows, right? And you add those regression tests to the regression feature set based on the timing. Simple as that. Nothing too serious, to be honest with you. But yeah, like, update them as necessary. All right. And new tests that should be tested on a regular basis. It's, as a QA engineer, right? It's not that you can figure out, like, what needs to be automated or how to automate it. It's the strategy, right? What I've seen working with my tech barbarians, the top level people in the Patreon, is the thing you gain most from experience is the strategy of approaching situations, right? Anyone can know how to actually, like, code, write automated tests, but now the strategy for making it efficient, how long it takes you to navigate and maneuver through different scenarios, that is the difference that happens. All right. And that's the experience, and that's what you get with experience. You get a better strategy because you've seen more, you know? And like, if a quick example, when you look at, like, the NBA, right? Players that have been in there for a long time. When you look at the Steph Currys, the late Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, right? LeBron James. And when they first would come into the league, they were, like, going super fast, and they would they didn't have the right strategy, the right mindset. Like, they could perform, but they could not be as successful as they are today, because in time, and you see, like, when they get into their 30s, right? That's when they're, like, really hitting their stride, because now they have the skill plus the strategy to be successful, because their mind slows down. They can see things much, much clearer, right? So that is the key, for, like, as a QA engineer, as a software engineer, as a data engineer, as a cybersecurity engineer, whatever the case may be. As you gain experience, you gain strategy. All right. So, on that note, that is our last question.
If you enjoyed the fascinating information shared in this video and you want more, be sure to hit the subscribe button to Tech Coach Ralph to be notified for new videos.